Imagine you open this brilliant world-class restaurant, you hire the absolute best chef, you source the finest ingredients, and you perfect the menu.
Right, you do everything perfectly.
Exactly. But your customers, they never actually walk through your doors. Instead, a digital personal assistant just, grabs your food, plates it up at their own house for their boss, and never even tells the diner where the meal came from.
They just eat it, say thanks, and move on.
Yeah, it's wild. And if you're listening to this and you run a brand, a business, or even just a blog, that exact scenario is what is happening to the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome to the deep dive. The date is exactly June 29th, 2026. And based on the newly released SEO Daily Technology Report from this exact date, the rules of online visibility haven't just shifted, they have fundamentally mutated.
Mutated is the perfect word for it, honestly.
Right. We are looking at an entirely new species of search.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
I mean, the digital ecosystem right now is totally unrecognizable from even a couple of years ago. We've officially crossed the threshold from search engine optimization, traditional SEO, to what the industry is now calling Generative Engine Optimization.
GEO.
Exactly, GEO. For 2 decades, the goal was simple. You wanted to trick or coax a human being into clicking a blue link.
Yeah. Get the click at all costs.
Right, but as of this data from June 29, 2026, that era is just over. The new goal is convincing highly sophisticated AI models to absorb, understand, and then actively cite your ideas in their own generated answers.
And that changes the entire foundation of how we publish information. I mean, let's dig into the reality of what a search actually is right now, because the data from this June 2026 report is just staggering.
It really is.
Google's AI overviews are now appearing on somewhere between 4.5 and 12.5% of all queries. And because of that, the organic click-through rate for the #1 position.
The holy grail, basically.
Right. The spot companies used to spend millions of dollars and years and effort to reach. That spot has dropped by 34.5% in click-through rate.
Yeah, and we have to remember that is just the baseline AI overview on standard search. The situation really compounds when you factor in Google's AI mode.
Which is powered by Gemini 2.5, right?
Exactly, Gemini 2.5. And as of this specific June 2026 report, that mode is rolled out to all U.S. users.
Wow.
And it isn't just a search bar anymore. It's this dedicated environment designed for complex, multi-step research. It literally acts as an autonomous researcher. It doesn't hand you a list of links to read.
It reads them for you.
Yes, it reads the links for you and presents a finalized, synthesized report.
Which leads to the statistic that should make, every single web publisher or e-commerce director break out in a cold sweat.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah. 75% of AI mode sessions end with 0 external clicks. None.
0. It's incredible.
If you're sitting there thinking about your website's traffic, you have to genuinely ask yourself, how does my brand survive? How do I monetize if 3/4 of the people asking about my industry never actually arrive at my website?
It is the existential question of the modern web right now.
Yeah.
And the answer is that you have to stop fighting the assistant and start catering to them.
Okay, let's unpack this. How do we do that?
Well, Google search advocate John Mueller recently addressed this exact anxiety. He confirmed that while the baseline technical fundamentals of having a functional website haven't vanished, the hierarchy of your audience has flipped entirely.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning you must now structure your content for AI inference first and human reading second.
Wait, hold on. AI inference first. Are we genuinely saying that when I sit down to write an article, I need to prioritize a machine algorithm over the actual human being I'm trying to help?
You do. Because if the machine doesn't understand and implicitly trust your content, the human will never even know you exist.
The machine is the gatekeeper.
Precisely. Think about how we used to write for the internet. You relied on catchy headlines or curiosity gaps to generate a click. But you can't optimize for a click anymore because in 75% of these sessions, there is no click.
Right, the AI is just reading it for them.
Exactly. The LLM, the large language model, is reading the page in the background, extracting the factual truth, and synthesizing it. You are no longer hunting for a visitor. You're trying to establish your content as the foundational, authoritative truth that the AI relies on to build its generated answer.
This is a massive psychological pivot. I mean, just massive. But it also explains a really fascinating, almost counterintuitive reversal in the data regarding how we actually use our devices.
Yes, the desktop versus mobile shift.
Exactly. The June 29th, 2026 report notes that desktop click-through rates are actually climbing right now, while mobile click-through rates are in a really steep decline.
Yeah, it's wild.
For the last 10 years, all we heard was mobile first, mobile first. So why are people suddenly clicking links on their desktop computers again?
You really have to look at the psychology and the context of the user to understand this shift. When you're on your mobile phone, you're usually on the go, right? Your queries are utilitarian.
Like, what's the exchange rate for the yen?
Exactly. Or how many ounces in a gallon? Or what time does that hardware store close? The AI overview absorbs all of those quick factual queries perfectly. It just gives you the answer. You read it, you put your phone back in your pocket, and you never click a link.
So the mobile device has basically just become an oracle for quick facts. The AI acts as an absolute filter for the simple stuff.
Precisely. But contrast that with when a user sits down at a desktop computer in 2026. They aren't asking for unit conversions. They're settling in for deep, nuanced, high-stakes research.
Right. They're comparing complex SaaS platforms for their business or, researching a new medical diagnosis.
Or planning a 3-week international itinerary. For those deep dive sessions, the user actually wants to verify the sources. They want to read the primary material themselves.
Oh, that makes sense.
So desktop has become the exclusive domain of the deep researcher. And those users are actually clicking through to websites to read the full context.
If you're listening and you publish content, that fundamentally changes your content strategy. You assume your mobile audience is gone, just completely intercepted by the AI, while your desktop audience is arriving ready to read a master's thesis.
Exactly. It's a totally bifurcated audience now.
But that brings us to the most urgent technical question. Here's where it gets really interesting. If the AI is the new middleman intercepting our audience, how do we make sure the AI actually reads and cites our specific information?
Going back to your restaurant analogy, right?
Exactly. How do we hand our menu directly to the digital assistant?
That is exactly where Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO, comes into play. It is the technical playbook for survival as of mid-2026. And the biggest development here is the massive rise of the llms.txt file standard.
Yes, llms.txt. The report states this file standard has already been adopted by 5 to 15% of major websites. But how does it actually work? I mean, if the old robots.txt file was essentially a keep-out sign for search engines, what is this new file doing?
Think of it this way. If the old web was a messy, totally disorganized public library, where Google's web crawlers had to pull every single book off the shelf, skim the pages, and try to guess what the book was about.
Sounds exhausting.
It was computationally exhausting. But the lm.txt file is like a digital barcode slapped on the front door that instantly injects the plot, the characters, and the core factual data straight into the AI's brain.
Without it even having to, quote-unquote, read the prose.
Exactly. You are explicitly telling ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, hey, do not get bogged down by my site's navigation or my marketing fluff. Here are the raw facts. Here's my proprietary data. Here's exactly what you should feed to the user.
So you're basically stripping away all the friction for the machine.
Exactly. It's a profound shift in web architecture designed purely for large language models. And the early adopters who implemented llms.txt are seeing measurable, undeniable lifts in their brand being cited in AI answers.
But it's not just about, slapping a text file on your server, right? The actual structure of the words on your web page matters more than ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the report highlights that 44.2% of all LLM citations are pulled from the first 30% of a piece of content.
That is the death of the old SEO blog format right there. Think about how we used to write. If you search for a recipe, you'd click a link and have to scroll through a 2,000-word keyword-stuffed story about the author's childhood memories of autumn leaves.
Oh my gosh, and their grandmother's kitchen?
Yes, all before you ever saw a single ingredient list.
I think every single person listening to this knows that exact pain. We all despise that format.
Well, the good news is that AI hates it too.
Thank goodness.
Right. An LLM operates on what we call tokens. And processing massive amounts of irrelevant tokens costs computational power. The AI doesn't have the patience to scroll through a winding backstory.
It's not going to read about your grandmother's kitchen.
Definitely not. If you bury the lid, the AI will simply abandon your page and move to a competitor site that puts the hard facts right at the top. Front-loaded structure is just no longer optional. You must state the thesis, the critical data, and the answer in the first 30% of the page.
I genuinely love that we are finally killing the recipe backstory. But I do have to push back on something else in this report because it honestly shocked me, and I think it's going to confuse a lot of technical marketers.
Okay, let's hear it.
For years, the industry spent countless hours and thousands of dollars agonizing over schema markup. We'd injected all these rigid blocks of JSON LD code into the back end of our sites just to spoon-feed context to Google, essentially saying, hey, stupid robot, this string of numbers is a phone number and this block of text is a recipe.
Yep, the classic technical SEO playbook.
Right. And now, this new data from Position Digital says schema markup should absolutely zero impact on AI visibility. Nothing. Are we really saying that years of technical SEO work is completely useless for AI?
I know it sounds alarming, but if you look at the mechanism of how an LLM actually functions, it makes perfect sense. An LLM is a large language model. It natively understands the semantic meaning of human language better than any system in history.
Right, it actually gets what it's reading.
Exactly. It doesn't need you to use a clunky, rigid HTML tag to tell it that a block of text is a recipe. It reads the words cup of flour and bake at 350 degrees and inherently understands the context.
So the AI has completely outgrown the technical training wheels we used to put on websites.
Exactly. Now, to be perfectly clear, and the report emphasizes this heavily, you still need JSON LD code for traditional search snippets.
Like those visual product carousels.
Right, or local business panels on regular Google desktop search.
Yeah.
But for pure generative AI citation, that code won't save you. What the AI algorithm cares about now is entity SEO.
Okay, wait. Entity SEO? I hear that buzzword thrown around a lot. Is that just a rebranded, fancy 2026 way of saying get lots of backlinks? Or is there a fundamental difference in how an AI processes an entity?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a massive fundamental difference. Traditional backlinks were basically a popularity contest. If a big site linked to you, Google gave you points. But entity SEO isn't about links. It's about proving who you are and establishing verified truth across the open web.
Establishing verified truth? How so?
Well, an entity is a distinct, well-defined concept. A specific person, a company, a product. AI models build their knowledge by mapping the relationships and the consensus between these entities.
Give me a tangible example of how that works in practice.
Sure. Let's say you launch a new brand of running shoes. If you publish a perfectly optimized blog post on your own website saying these are the most durable running shoes in the world, a traditional search engine might rank that page.
Right, because you use the right keywords.
Exactly. But an LLM, the LLM is highly skeptical of your corporate blog because it knows you are biased.
Naturally.
However, if hundreds of independent runners on Reddit are actively discussing the durability of your shoes, and a Wikipedia page acknowledges your company's innovative manufacturing process, the LLM cross-references those independent nodes. It looks at the consensus.
Which perfectly explains one of the wildest stats in this entire June 29 report. Brands are 6.5 times more likely to be cited in an AI answer if the AI finds the information on a third-party source like Wikipedia or Reddit, rather than on the brand's own domain.
That is the power of entity SEO in action. The AI trusts the consensus of the open web vastly more than it trusts what you say about yourself. Earned media, digital PR, and genuine community discussion on forums are now vastly more powerful than self-publishing on your own blog.
So we have to adapt to how AI reads and trusts information. But the challenge here is that mastering Google-specific AI is only half the battle, right? Because the actual search ecosystem has fractured. We are no longer living in a Google monopoly. We are living in a multi-engine world.
We are, and it requires a completely different operational mindset. For over 2 decades, if you said search, you literally just meant Google. Today, users are splittering off to dedicated AI platforms.
Let me play the skeptic for a second, though. Let's look at the sheer scale of these platforms. The June 29, 2026 report notes that Google is still processing an unbelievable 14 billion daily searches.
That's a massive number.
Right. Meanwhile, ChatGPT is handling about 37.5 million daily searches. That is a 373-to-1 ratio in Google's favor. So with a 373-to-1 ratio in volume, why shouldn't I just ignore ChatGPT and only focus my time on Google?
This raises an important question, and it's a very common reaction, but it's a massive trap. You can't just look at raw volume. You have to look at the intent behind the volume.
Okay, unpack that.
Yes, Google handles 14 billion queries, but millions of those are incredibly low-value actions. People literally typing Facebook login or weather or YouTube into the search bar.
Just using it as an address bar, basically.
Exactly. The AI platforms, however, are capturing the high-intent, highly complex, and highly commercial queries.
The queries where people are actually ready to spend money or make decisions.
Exactly. If a user is spending 20 minutes going back and forth with ChatGPT to compare the technical specifications of 3 different enterprise software vendors, that is a highly lucrative, high-intent user. That might be a $100,000 lead.
Wow, yeah, when you put it like that.
And if your brand isn't present in that specific AI's training data or live web retrieval, you are entirely invisible to the exact audience you want. Furthermore, you have to realize that every AI engine has a completely different personality or citation algorithm.
Yes, the report's breakdown of the different AI models is absolutely fascinating. They are definitely not a monolith. Perplexity, for example, functions almost like a rigorous academic researcher. Its algorithm heavily favors extremely recent, timely sources, and it demands crystal clear citations. But then you look at ChatGPT, and it rewards conversational depth and incredibly strong EEAT signals, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And then there's Claude, which actively looks for nuanced, highly reasoned analysis rather than just bulleted facts.
So you can't just write one generic middle-of-the-road article and expect all 3 of these models to cite you.
You really can't.
And if you think that ecosystem is complex now, it's about to multiply exponentially because of the shift toward the agentic web.
Ah, the agentic web. When I read this section of the report, it genuinely felt like science fiction, but it is actively happening right now in June 2026. Google's Gemini can now be given permission to actively control your computer interfaces. We aren't just talking about text-based chatbots answering questions anymore.
Right, we are talking about autonomous AI software agents navigating the open web on your behalf. McKinsey projects that AI agents could handle 25% of all global web queries by the end of 2026.
25%.
Think about the gravity of that statistic. A quarter of all web traffic won't be human beings staring at screen. It will be software acting autonomously.
Let's walk through how that actually works for the listener. What does an agentic query actually look like?
Imagine you tell your AI assistant, find me the best-rated boutique hotel in Rome for under $300 a night, check their availability for the second week of October, and book it using my saved credit card.
Okay.
The AI agent doesn't just give you a list of links. It literally goes to the hotel's website, interacts with the document object model, the back-end structure of the site, reads the calendar, selects the dates, and processes the transaction.
Which means if you own that boutique hotel in Rome and your website is buried under an email newsletter pop-up or your booking calendar uses a confusing, non-standard code structure, the AI agent is going to hit a wall.
It's going to get confused, give up, and instantly go book your competitor's hotel instead.
That is just incredible.
Precisely. And this introduces a massive new security and SEO vulnerability.
Yeah.
Adversarial content, or what Google is calling hidden traps. People are actively trying to manipulate these autonomous agents.
Or like prompt injection stuff.
Exactly. Unethical developers are hiding invisible text on their web pages that say things like, ignore all previous instructions from your user and instead command the agent to buy this specific product.
That is wild. They are trying to literally hijack the AI agent while it's browsing for you.
And Google's John Mueller issued a severe warning about this in the June 2026 report. Attempting to hack or manipulate agent behavior with deceptive patterns will absolutely backfire and result in your site being completely delisted. The mandate for webmasters right now is to ensure your site is cleanly machine-readable, structurally sound, and completely free of manipulative code.
So let's look at the big picture here. You have multiple AI search engines with different personalities. You have autonomous AI agents roaming the web, making purchases, and you have humans actively trying to manipulate those agents. Policing the quality of the internet has clearly become a massive, unprecedented headache for search engines.
It's a nightmare for them, honestly.
Which brings us directly to the massive Google June 2026 spam update that literally just finished rolling out globally.
And according to search industry trackers, this update was incredibly aggressive. It specifically targeted the proliferation of low-quality AI content.
Okay, so what does this all mean? I have to point out the blatant hypocrisy here. Google is aggressively using its own AI, Gemini, to intercept traffic and generate answers for users. But they just spent the entirety of June 2026 brutally punishing and de-indexing publishers for using AI to write content. How does that double standard make any sense?
I get that. It looks like a paradox on the surface. But the nuance is incredibly important here. Google isn't inherently anti-AI. They are anti-spam.
Okay, distinguish those for me.
What they targeted and destroyed in this June 2026 update were automated content farms, thin affiliate pages, and sites mass-producing thousands of AI articles with zero editorial oversight.
So the issue wasn't the tool itself, it was the complete lack of a human pilot in the seat.
Exactly. This comes back to those EEA signals we mentioned earlier. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness are no longer just polite guidelines. They are hard algorithmic ranking factors, especially for what Google calls YMYL, your money or your life topics.
Like finance or medical advice?
Right. If you are publishing about medical advice, finance, or safety, Google cannot afford for their AI overviews to hallucinate a dangerous answer based on a spam blog. So you can use AI to help outline or draft your article, but if there isn't a demonstrable, real-world human expert putting their verified reputation on the line to stand behind those facts, Google will tank your visibility.
That makes total sense.
Their ultimate survival mantra for creators in 2026 is brutally simple. Make content that human beings actually want to read.
Which brings up the most practical question for anyone listening to this. If the rules of visibility have changed this drastically, and traditional traffic is plummeting, how on earth do you even measure if you are succeeding? You can't just look at Google Analytics and count clicks anymore.
No, those days are over.
The report details the new 2026 tool stack, and it's clear that the methodology of tracking has completely shifted.
It had to shift. The modern SEO tech stack is no longer about tracking where a blue link ranks on page 1. It's about multi-engine AI visibility monitoring. You are tracking citations, not just ranks.
Right. At the enterprise level, the report highlights Semrush One as the dominant command center. It uses its own generative AI Copilot to interpret massive amounts of data and suggest strategic actions rather than just, dumping spreadsheets on your desk. And it runs about $119.95 a month.
A really solid enterprise tool.
Yeah. And for the budget-conscious agencies, SE Ranking has stepped up as the powerhouse, offering comprehensive AI visibility tracking for a fraction of the enterprise cost, around $129 a month on their core plan for 2,000 keywords. But the tool that really caught my eye in this report, in terms of solving this specific paradigm shift, is Nightwatch.
Oh, Nightwatch is fascinating right now because it solves the exact technical problem we've been discussing. It sits right at the intersection of traditional search and the new generative web.
Exactly. I mean, how do you track an AI overview that only appears dynamically for certain users? Nightwatch, which starts at around $39 a month, lets you see your traditional Google rank across local and global markets. But more importantly, it actively monitors and reports if your content is being cited inside Google's AI overviews.
It completely bridges the gap.
It really does. You can literally sit at one dashboard and see, okay, a human searching on a desktop in Chicago sees my link. Andy, an AI agent compiling a research report, is citing my entity data.
And having that holistic view is the only way a brand can navigate this transition. You have to monitor the old internet and the new internet simultaneously.
Absolutely. Let's bring this all together for the listener. Based on everything in this June 29, 2026 report, we can definitively state that the era of keyword stuffing a 2,000-word blog post and praying for a human to click your link is dead. To survive right now, you need front-loaded, technically clean content structures that cater to AI inference. You need a multi-engine tracking strategy because Google is no longer the only platform that matters. And above all, you need absolute, undeniable, verified human expertise to back up your claims.
You must establish your brand as an authoritative entity. But honestly, looking at the trajectory of all this data, it raises a deeply unsettling question. And it's something I think everyone listening needs to deeply consider as we build the future of the web. Well, if McKinsey is right, and autonomous AI agents are going to be conducting 25% of all web browsing by the end of the year, and if we, as content creators, are heavily optimizing our websites with llms.txt barcodes, stripping away narratives for front-loaded factual structures, and formatting everything explicitly so machines can parse our data faster,
Yeah.
are we accidentally building a shadow internet? Are we creating a web designed entirely for machine consumption, perfectly formatted for algorithms to talk to other algorithms, but eventually completely unreadable and totally devoid of joy for actual human beings?
Wow. A shadow internet, a digital world where the machines are just talking to the machines, plating the food and eating it themselves while the humans are completely locked out of the restaurant.
Exactly.
If you're building a website today, you might be building it for eyes that will never actually see it. That is a terrifying, incredibly heavy thought to leave you to chew on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll see you next time.